the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow's NFL career. Also, the Buffalo Bills absolutely destroyed the New York Jets. They got another divisional game coming up on Thursday. We got a lot of reactions this week. We have the Philadelphia Eagles, who went up against the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch, pretty much beating them again, the same way they beat them in the Super Bowl. Maybe not a blowout like that, but the Philadelphia Eagles were a much better team again. We'll be breaking down, obviously, the Dallas Cowboys, a crazy overtime game with the Giants, and we'll be breaking down every single game coming up and giving you our pick. The NFL show starts right now. And we're back with the Anthony Balester YouTube channel. I'm your host, Anthony Balester. We have a great show in store for you guys. But first, make sure you follow us across all social medias, on Twitter at Balester555 and Instagram at TikTok at Anthony Balester. Make sure not only are you watching this video, but make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more YouTube subscribers we have, the more content and the better the content that we can bring you guys. Make sure, not only should you watch it, but make sure you like and share this video. If you're a football fan, share it to other people. I'm pretty sure you guys got friends and family that are also football fans. The more subscribers we have, the more eyeballs we got on this. It helps out with the algorithm. It also make sure to like this video. Again, it all ties in together and it all helps out with the algorithm. And the more we get at that, the more subscribers we have and the more content we can bring to you guys like this. Well, let's get into it. The first thing we got to talk about was, in very sad news, and what's the biggest story headed into this week, and that is Joe Burrow, who is going to be out for the next 3 months. He had a grade 3 turf toe injury, which has now put him out for a minimum of 3 months. He had to have surgery. I read that there was torn ligaments in that toe that required surgery. Now, even if everything goes right with the rehab, with the recovery, he's going to be out at least 3 months and miss at least 12 games. Now, I know the Cincinnati Bengals are already 2-0. Schedule-wise, if everything goes good, he could come back for the final 3 games. We know typically, if you want to make the playoffs, it's usually 10 wins get you in. 10-7 is usually the record you got to shoot for. Every now and then, you'll get a 10-win team that just misses it by half a game. But on average, if you win 10 games, you should be in the playoffs. So with them already having 2 wins already, if Joe Burrow could come back and play flawlessly, which that's even a tough ask, to play flawlessly and win the last 3 games of the season, that gives them at 5 wins. Meaning that they got to find an additional 5 wins without Joe Burrow. Now their defense, the sad part is Joe Burrow got hurt, but the defense was playing really well. You could have had Joe Burrow on that offense with this amazing defense. When Joe Burrow went out, this defense stepped up, forced Trevor Lawrence into multiple turnovers, were able to get the win. They beat, I know, a subpar Cleveland Browns team, but they still won a division game with Joe Burrow, I believe, throwing for less than 250 yards. So the fact that they've won their first 2 games, the Bengals, by defense, and now you lose Joe Burrow, I mean, that would have been scary for the rest of the NFL. The fact that you would have had to deal with Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and a much improved defense. And now they're going to have to rely on that defense more than ever. So, as I stated before, they're going to have to find 5 wins in this 12-game stretch. So they're going to have to go 5-7 during these 12 games. Now, they got to play teams like Buffalo. They got to play teams like Baltimore. They got to play teams like Pittsburgh. So this is going to be very, very tough. They don't have an easy schedule. Even if everything goes right and they win the games that they probably should, or games that are 50-50, they probably just get to that 5-win mark. Now, if there's any sort of upsets or any games that they lose that they shouldn't, now you're looking at a team that probably finishes 9-8. Now, this is if everything goes right. Who's saying, Joe Burrow doesn't have a setback? Who's saying it doesn't all go right and Joe Burrow doesn't come back for the final 3 games and he can only come back for the playoffs? Now you're looking at a team that is going to have to win 8 games remaining of the season to get to that 10-win mark. They already got 2. If Joe Burrow can't play the rest of the season, Obviously, they got 15 games left to be played. That means they would have to go. They would have to win 8 of those games. That's very, very tough to ask from Jake Browning. Jake Browning would have to go 8-7 the rest of the way. So it seems like the Bengals, even with that improved defense, it seems like their season may be over before it really got started. I know they played 2 games, but we're really not even fully into the season to even know what these teams really are. We know how much and how quickly things change in the NFL. Every 4 weeks, it's like a new season. In the first 4 weeks, we're still trying to figure teams out. Teams are trying to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are. So we still even know what these teams are going to look like 4 or 5 weeks from now when they get into mid-season form. But on the larger part about this, and the thing that I want to speak about is not even just this season, but it's just the constant trend with what the Cincinnati Bengals have done. Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals have given Joe Burrow offensive weapons, but what they haven't given him is protection. I think Joe Burrow would much rather have just Jamar Chase and not have a T. Higgins and at least not have to get killed in every single play. I mean, we're talking about a guy who tore his ACL his rookie season, came back, played against one of the worst offensive lines, got him to the Super Bowl. You knew they needed offensive line help. Now, I know they could have drafted Penei Sewell, who's the best tackle maybe now in football, but they had to take Jamar Chase. That's the one thing I won't knock the Bengals on. They had to take Jamar Chase. He's the best receiver in the NFL. If he stays healthy and has a long career, he's going to go down as one of the 10 greatest receivers of all time. That makes sense. But there's no excuses for the other drafts that followed. You know, you're talking about Joe Burrow, where he was a sack away in that Super Bowl from maybe even winning the whole thing. His first full season healthy with Jamar Chase and those receivers, he was 1 sack away from maybe completing a touchdown pass to win that game against the Rams. And when Joe Burrow first came into the league, the Bengals did have a good defense those first couple years. Last year was the only year where they really didn't have a good defense. Now you look at the additions that they made, their defense now with the young guys that they got in the secondary, Shamar Stewart and others, this defense is playing really, really well now. So they got the defense. So for the most part, Joe Burrow's had the defense. He's had the wide receivers. But you've known now for 4 to 5 years that you needed to get an offensive line to protect them. And it's not even just getting, great offensive linemen. Just get above average offensive linemen. I think that they had a stat out there where Joe Burrow's offensive line each year that he's been a starting quarterback has been in one of the 5 worst. They've been like 28th, 32nd, 30th, 29th. You can't even get an average offensive line. Like, you can't even get 5 guys that can even just put you at a top 20 offensive line. If Joe Burrow had the 22nd best offensive line, you're still probably one of the 10 or 11 worst offensive lines in the league, and that's still significantly better than anything he's had since he's been there. So it's an absolute travesty when you got one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL. I know there's some guys coming up in the works, like Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts has a Super Bowl, but we know that there's 4 great quarterbacks in the NFL. Usually in the NFL, you got 4 dominant quarterbacks. You had Brady, you had Manning, you had Rodgers, and you had Brees. Now we have Allen, Lamar, Mahomes, and Burrow. But Burrow's the one guy who's constantly getting killed on the offensive line. And I know that there's question marks with all these other quarterbacks and what they have and what they don't have. Yeah, since they lost Tyreek Hill, Pat Mahomes hasn't had that deep threat. But he's had a great coaching staff. He's had a good offensive line for the most part, outside of the tackle position in the Super Bowl. He's had a great defense for the most part. He's had a great tight end. Lamar Jackson, who up until Zay Flowers hasn't had great receivers, but he has had a good offensive line. He has had a good defense. Josh Allen hasn't never had a great defense. In the playoffs, his defense is absolutely atrocious. But at least Josh Allen has an offensive line. And yeah, as a Bills fan, it sucks when you see Josh Allen putting up these great numbers, putting the team on his back in the playoffs, but they're losing because his defense is getting gashed for 30-plus points. But I'll tell you what, I'll take that 10 times out of 10 over a team that's got a good defense, but Josh Allen's getting hit on every play. I'd rather have Josh Allen lose in a shootout and at least have his health and be able to know that he's going to be back the next season fully ready to go than to have a Joe Burrow situation where, yeah, you got a decent defense, yeah, you got the receivers, but the guy's got a torn ACL, he's got a torn wrist, he's got a turf toe. This guy's going to end up having a short career because of it. At least if you have a bad defense, you could always say, okay, well, we'll try to get next year on the defense. We'll try to add some players. There's always some level of hope. When your quarterback gets hurt, what level of hope do you have? At that point, it's like, are we going to lose him for the rest of his career? Is Joe Burrow going to have to retire? And that's going to be so exhausting for a Cincinnati Bengals fan. And there's no excuses. And the problem is they're going to blame Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor's not the issue. Zach Taylor has coached his team well. You see, when Drake Browning comes in, he puts this quarterback in favorable positions. So I don't think Zach Taylor, the head coach, is the problem. I don't think the defense is the problem anymore. The wide receivers ain't the problem. It's the GM. The GM cannot build or get an offensive line for this guy. And what's going to happen is if this continues to happen over and over and over, this is not sustainable. And it's not that Joe Burrow is injury prone. He wasn't hurt before in college, but he's been hurt in the Bengals because he can't get protection. Any other quarterback behind that Cincinnati Bengals offensive line would be hurt as well. I don't care if you're Josh Allen and you're 240 pounds. I don't care if you're Lamar Jackson and you run a 4.240. It doesn't matter what quarterback's behind that offensive line. You're taking way too many hits. You're letting Myles Garrett have a free runner at you, hitting you with full force. No quarterback's going to be able to withstand that punishment. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a situation now where Joe Burrow is going to end up pretty much being hurt for 3 of the 5 seasons that he's played. That's ridiculous. You can't have that situation. He got drafted in 2020. He tore his ACL. 2021, he didn't have a good offensive line, was getting killed. Still got to the Super Bowl. His next year, didn't have an offensive line. Still got you to the AFC Championship game. Then he hurts his arm. He has another year where his defense absolutely holds him back, but he's getting hit every single play again. And now this year. So, sorry I said 3 out of 5 years, but 3 out of 6 years now, your star quarterback's been hurt because you can't get him protection. What's going to end up happening is by the time you get to year 7, year 8, year 9, Joe Burrow's going to have so many injuries, he might have to retire like Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck, well, for Andrew Luck, he didn't have anything. He didn't have the receivers or the defense for the most part, but he didn't have an offensive line to really help protect him. And by the time they got the offensive line, by the time he was in his late 20s, where Joe Burrow is right now, he was already too beat up. The guy had a collapsed lung, multiple other injuries. That's what's going to happen. Because Joe Burrow's had leg injuries. He's had arm injuries. He's had head injuries. He's got the turf toe. They're all going to pile up. And by the time Joe Burrow's 30, 31 years old, he's either not going to be the same player as he once was. He's going to be shell of himself because of the injuries. Or he's going to have to retire because no human being can take that punishment. And Joe Burrow's a smart guy. He knows for his health and longevity, if he wants to live a long life, if he wants to have a family, there's no way that his health can take that type of punishment. So the Bengals got to do something. And I would not fire Zach Taylor. I don't care how soft this season goes. He's not the issue. The issue is the GM. I would fire the GM and bring in a GM or bring in somebody that you know that could draft an offensive line or bring in an offensive line coach that's much better that could coach up these guys. It's inexcusable, and I love Joe Burrow. I think he's the closest thing we have to a Tom Brady. I do think Josh Allen, because of his dual threat ability, I do think Lamar Jackson, because of his dual threat ability, are better players. But in terms of just running the quarterback position the way it's supposed to be played, by going through your progressions, reading defenses, getting the ball out quick, getting the ball accurate, throwing the ball on the tight window throws, there's nobody that plays the position of the quarterback in terms of just quarterbacking better than Joe Burrow. And it's sad to see that a guy that great, who should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, who should be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, might have a short career. And we know the Bengals have a history of being kind of a poor franchise. They've had a lot of great quarterbacks. They had probably 4 Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks with Ken Anderson, Boomer Esiason, Carson Palmer, and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's the most talented of them all. But all those other guys came short because they're a cheap organization that doesn't do the right thing. So they better do the right thing, because one of the best players to ever play in this game is going to have a short career because of it. But that was my soapbox real quick. We'll move on. Sorry if I was a little angry about it. So now let's talk about all the other things that did happen on the field and all the great games we had from last week. We had, in week 2, we had a tremendous game with the Philadelphia Eagles in a Super Bowl rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a game that, the Eagles definitely looked like the better team. It did seem like the Eagles were going to win this game throughout, but it was definitely much closer than what we got from the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles, there's no answer for their tush push. It's an unstoppable play. Whenever they get, 1.5, maybe even 2 yards, there's no stopping them. Like Tom Brady said it perfectly. You're playing a team where they don't start on 1st and 10 every drive. They're starting off 1st and 9. Because if they get 1 or 2 yards on 3rd down, or even on 4th down, they're going to get it. So that's what makes this team so deadly, is even if you hold this team to only 8 or 9 yards on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down, they're going to go for it on 4th and 1 each and every time and get it almost every time. So that's a very tough team to play against. We know they got the defense. They're not even using their wide receivers because they don't need to. They could just do a couple passes to the receivers when needed in clutch situations when the running game's taken out. But you got Saquon Barkley. You got Jalen Hurts. You got the best offensive line in football. Their defense is looking pretty good. I know that their pass rush needed some improvement from the week before. Obviously, they brought in Zadarius Smith. They got some other young guys as well, and they got Jalen Carter back, and you see they got the pass rush going now. I love their rookie linebacker, Jahan Campbell. Adoree Jackson's been playing pretty well in replacement for Darius Slay. This is a team that doesn't really have many weaknesses. But the Kansas City Chiefs did put themselves in a position to win. The difference in that game was the Travis Kelce drop. When you look at the score, the Philadelphia Eagles won 20-17. But when you dig deeper into that score, there was a 14-point swing in that game. Pat Mahomes threw a perfect pass that should have been an easy catch for a touchdown by Travis Kelce. That's 7+ points for the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't get that. It bounces off of Travis Kelce's hands. He doesn't catch it. The Philadelphia Eagles get an interception. They take it back for a few yards. I think it was like 20, 30 yards. They score on that drive. That's a 2-touchdown swing. If that gets flipped and the Kansas City Chiefs get the 7 points and the Philadelphia Eagles can't capitalize and get their own touchdown on that, we're probably talking about a different game. And Pat Mahomes, he missed some deep throws. His deep ball accuracy doesn't look like it's the same. But what is the guy supposed to do? He doesn't have his number 1 receiver due to suspension. He doesn't have his number 2 receiver due to injury. And his go-to target for the last better part of the decade has let him down. Travis Kelce, who makes those routine catches, he may not be as fast or as nimble as he once was. But you were always able to rely on his football IQ and his hands. And his hands killed him this weekend, and it cost the Kansas City Chiefs a win. And now the Kansas City Chiefs are sitting at 0-2. Quickly, we'll talk about some other games. We had the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield putting his team on his back, going down the field for a game-winning touchdown against the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans could get nothing out of their run game because of Joe Mixon being out. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were without 2 offensive linemen. So the Texans defense and pass rush with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter were, giving Baker Mayfield fits, but Baker Mayfield was so tough, running the ball when they were shutting down the pass, taking big hits, and being very clutch. And this is why, since he's been in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, why Baker Mayfield has probably been somewhere between the 6th and the 10th best quarterback in the league. Not only is he not a bust, but he's become really on the verge or just on the outside of one of those elite quarterbacks. We always talk about the big 4. Well, Baker Mayfield's making a huge statement as being one of the best quarterbacks outside of those top 4. And you got to give him all the credit in the world for what he's done. You had the Dallas Cowboys, who had a great back-and-forth game with the New York Giants. And it looked like the New York Giants were about to win this game. When they hit the long touchdown pass, Russell Wilson played phenomenal in this game. I know the Dallas Cowboys had some injuries to their secondary. But, man, he hits a long touchdown throw to Wan'Dale Robinson. You think they're going to win the game then? Then Dak Prescott goes down the field, hits George Pickens for a touchdown. You're like, whoa, Russell Wilson can't do it a second time. Well, he does. He hits Malik Neighbors for a long touchdown with, I believe it was like under like a minute left or like a minute or two something left with basically no time much left on the clock for the Cowboys. He completely burned Kumar Elam on that play. Dallas and Dak Prescott, I think it was our third down. He hits the tight end for a first down, gets him in what shouldn't be field goal range for most teams. But when you got the best kicker in the league like Dallas has, a 64-yard field goal is considered field goal range for them. This guy's made multiple of those. He kicks it perfect, sends the game to overtime. The teams go back and forth. Dallas, on the last drive of overtime, gets in field goal range, and the best kicker in football does it again. So it was a tremendous win for Dallas. I thought the Giants showed really good improvement. We really questioned their offense. Their offense wasn't the reason why they lost that game. We had the Indianapolis Colts continuing their hot streak, beating the Denver Broncos. Daniel Jones has been flawless. This team is not punted this season yet, and we're through 2 games now. Jonathan Taylor is looking like the old Jonathan Taylor. He's looking like one of the best backs in football again. We know the Indianapolis Colts has talent, but now they got a quarterback in Daniel Jones who is probably going to end up being this year's Sam Darnold, proving that he's not a bust, that he has the talent, and when you put him around good coaches, when you put him around good players, he can get the job done. He's been money on third down. He's been money with the big-time throws and the tight window throws. Indianapolis Colts has had a lot of players step up on defense with the new additions like Cameron Bynum and others. Bo Nix had a really good game. I thought he played much better than what he did last week against the Tennessee Titans. And the Denver Broncos had an opportunity to win this game. They basically had the Colts forced into a long field goal. The Colts missed the field goal, but because of a penalty, the Colts were able to get a little closer and get a retry. And you know, if the kicker misses the game-winning field goal and gets a second try, 9 times out of 10 he's going to make it. So because of that, that cost the Denver Broncos the game. And the Denver Broncos hasn't looked as great as we thought. They didn't blow out the Tennessee Titans like we thought, and then now they lost to the Indianapolis Colts. So they're a 1-1 team that hasn't looked as good as we thought before. And then finally, we had the Detroit Lions rebounding after being absolutely blown off the football field by the Packers. Now they go in another divisional matchup and absolutely blow the Chicago Bears off the football field. Jared Goff with 5 touchdowns, St. Brown with 3. The Chicago Bears couldn't get anything right. Their defense looked pretty good in the first 3 quarters against Minnesota, choked in the 4th quarter, and now they absolutely got blown off the football field. The questions with Caleb Williams are still there. Caleb Williams is still yet to prove. You know, he had his moments as a rookie, but he's still to prove is he's really, truly the guy, and was he truly worth the first overall pick. Now we're going to get into the games in week 3. We got a lot of them, and we're going to start out with Thursday Night Football. We got the Miami Dolphins on the road against the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are an 11.5-point favorite as we record the show. Now, as I say before we do all these picks every week, these are subject to change. These point spread can change, but I always say for the most part, 90% of the time, whoever I pick for the point spread, the couple points that it changes from now until the end of the week, my picks really won't change. And if they will, I'll state that. Now, in this one, we have a Miami Dolphins team who got blown out by the Colts, but we know the Colts are a much better team than we thought. And they played a really competitive game and did have chances to win against the Patriots. I think that they had a play at the end of the game where they could have tied it or scored and win the game, and it was taken back. But we see that this team just does not seem like it's all buttoned up. Tyreek Hill's getting frustrated. Mike McDaniel seems to have lost the locker room. Their defense, with all the injuries they have in the secondary, can't stop nobody. But 11.5-point favorite is really hard to take. I say, I don't care who it is, when you're talking about double-digit point favorites in the NFL, it's really hard for me to take that, especially the division game. And then we look at the Bills, their best defensive player from week 1, Ed Oliver's out. One of their best defensive players overall, Matt Milano, is going to be out. I know they still got Boza. They will get Tyron Johnson back. I think Cam Lewis may be out. So this is a team that's dealing with some injuries. And a Miami Dolphins team who knows that they're playing for their season. And we know that they don't want to start off 0-3. Mike McDaniel's coaching for his job. We know if this season continues to go south for him and they get to 0-4, 0-5, 0-6, he's probably going to be fired and be the first head coach fired this year. And Miami Dolphins will go into a rebuild, probably draft a new quarterback in a year or two, and everything will change. So they're playing for their livelihood. And because it's a division game, I do think the Buffalo Bills win by 7 to 10 points by a touchdown and a field goal. But I just think 11.5 points is way too much to ask. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills no cover. We got kind of an easy pick here. We got the Green Bay Packers, who look like the best team in football right now. They have a great offense. They don't have any weaknesses. They got the best defense in football this year. Jordan Love has been firing on all cylinders. I know they got some injuries to the wide receivers position, but they got one of the deeper receiver cores in the league. So they got some other guys like Wicks and others, Matthew Golden, who they can rely on. And then with the tight ends they have with Tucker Kraft, they have a good offensive line. They got Josh Jacobs, one of the best running backs. This is the best team in football right now. And you're playing against the Browns, who be one of the worst teams in football right now. I like the Browns' defensive pieces. I think Joe Flacco's serviceable, but they just don't have the offensive firepower to compete with the Packers. And I think the Packers' defense, the best in the league, and Micah Parsons is going to absolutely shut down Joe Flacco. So easy pick right here. Go with the Green Bay Packers to win and cover. We got a division matchup right here. We got the Indianapolis Colts, who are only, surprisingly, a 3.5-point favorite to the Tennessee Titans. I do want to say, though, while the Colts have been the biggest surprise of the season, and the Titans are 0-2, the Titans have played pretty competitive football. They played the Denver Broncos much closer than we thought, and then their last week game was much closer than we thought. So the Tennessee Titans have surprised some people. I think they went up against the Rams last week, which we thought would absolutely be a blowout, just like we thought, with the Broncos. Now, I know the point spread may not look like it was close, but there's moments in each of those games where the Tennessee Titans look competitive. And the Titans, surprisingly, they don't really have many great wide receivers. They got a young guy that they drafted this year who I like. They like Calvin Ridley, but I don't like their offensive line. I don't like their receivers as a whole. They definitely need some more wide receivers, but their defense has been one of the biggest surprises. I knew they had talent on a defensive line, but as a whole, with what they had a linebacker in the secondary, I did not like this defense heading into the season. Well, I've been completely wrong. They've been one of the better defenses in the NFL. Roger McCreary has really, really stepped up. Their safeties have really, really stepped up. So because of their defense and because they're home, and it's a division game, this game can be close, and I think that's why we get the point spread. But at the end of the day, the way Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Alex Pierce, Michael Pittman, Tyler Warren as a rookie who's become one of the 5 best tight ends in football. Not saying he's as good as Brock Bowers, but it's kind of like the closest thing we have to Brock Bowers. I think with the point spread being low, I think that Indianapolis Colts continue their run, move to 3-0, and I'm going to go Indianapolis Colts to win and cover. Now we have a backup versus backup in this one. We got the Cincinnati Bengals going on the road with Jake Browning against Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite. I think this will be a very low-scoring game with the Bengals' improvements on defense, with the way the Vikings have looked on defense, with the pass rushing guys that they have, with the linebackers they have, the secondary they have. This is going to be a very back-and-forth game. I expect both quarterbacks to, make mistakes, but I like Carson Wentz better. I think Carson Wentz is the better quarterback than Jake Browning, and Minnesota, I just like their team better. I think Minnesota's got better players on defense. I like Carson Wentz better. They're the home team, and I do like Zach Taylor, but Kevin O'Connell's in the conversation for probably one of the 5 best coaches. He does more with less than probably much other coaches do. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win and cover in that one. We have a really good game right here. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers going on the road, they're a 1.5-point favorite against the New England Patriots. Pittsburgh Steelers had a really good game last week where it looked like if it wasn't, for a special teams mess up by the rookie Caleb Johnson, maybe Pittsburgh could have won that. But everything just went against them. Nothing went their way in that game. I think with the defense that they have with Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, that they have great leadership. Aaron Rodgers, who really had a good game. His one turnover was a pass that should have been caught by Kelvin Austin. It bounced right off his hands. So I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will rebound. The Patriots on the other side are coming off of a very close win. Ultimately, I haven't liked the way the New England Patriots I thought they were going to be one of the most improved teams, but you lost to the Raiders. You went toe-to-toe and nearly lost to one of the worst teams in football this year, the Miami Dolphins. I think the Steelers are just a much better team. I think Drake May, who's got the potential to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, I still trust Aaron Rodgers more. Mike Tomlin's going to have this team fired up coming after a loss. I know they are on the road, but it's a small point spread. It's basically pretty much a pick 'em. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers to win and cover that one. in one of the best games of the week, maybe, two of the top four teams in the NFC. We got the Los Angeles Rams going on the road to the Philadelphia Eagles. This game's got so many great players on the football field. You got Puka Nacua, you got Devontae Adams, you got Matthew Stafford. On the other side, you got Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk, Kobe Turner. The Eagles, you got Jalen Carter. You got Cooper DeJean. You got Quinion Mitchell. You got on the other side Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley. This is going to be a game that looks like an all-star game. But with the Philadelphia Eagles looking as great as they did, this team just, along with the Green Bay Packers, are the two most complete teams in football. And with them being the home team, I think that they'll be able to run the ball against the Rams. I think that their defense will be able to make enough plays, but I expect this game to be very close. But it's only a 3.5 point spread. This game could go either way. Like I said, the Rams with the experienced Matthew Stafford, who is one of the smartest pre-snap quarterbacks who could dissect defenses. We know the Philadelphia Eagles are still trying to fix some issues and have some young new players and new starters in the secondary. And when you got guys like Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford, they could definitely exploit that. But I think the Eagles are a better team. I think if the Rams were the home team, I would go with the Rams. If it was a neutral site game, I would go with the Eagles barely. But now it's going to be in the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a tough place to play. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to win and cover. We got the New York Jets, who won't have Justin Fields, who unfortunately is out with a concussion. They'll have to play the very experienced Tyrod Taylor, Tyrod Taylor is a really good game manager. If, he gets the protection, he has a good defense, he won't lose the game for you. And that's what the Jets are going to try to do. But with the way that the Buccaneers have looked, with the Emeka and Buka, Bucky Irving, one of the most explosive running backs who could come out the backfield, catch the ball, could run the ball as well. I know the Buccaneers are still going to have some injuries on the offensive line. That's, a bad combination when you go up against Quinn Williams, Will McDonald, and Jermaine Johnson. Sauce Gardner is going to probably be lined up against Mike Evans for a lot of this game. So I expect this game to actually be much closer than what the point spread says. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers to win because I'm not going to pick a Tyrod Taylor-led team to beat a Baker Mayfield-led team. The way Baker Mayfield's looking, the way Emeka and Buka and those guys are looking. But we know the Buccaneers, can struggle on the offensive line, and they can struggle at times on the defense. And I think Tyrod Taylor and the defense will make some plays. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers, but Buccaneers no cover. Now we got the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Washington Commanders. We don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to play. I suspect that he will. I think the Commanders, after having a very subpar Week 2 Thursday night game against the best team in football right now, the Green Bay Packers, I think they'll respond. I expect the rookie who's coming in now for Austin Eckler. We know he's had a lot of hype in preseason. I expect him to have a huge breakout game. I think that they'll finally get Terry McLaurin involved. The receivers haven't been as dominant as we thought. With Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin, we thought those guys would be dominant. I think they will be in this game because I don't think the Las Vegas Raiders have an overly great secondary. And being on the road, Ashton Genty hasn't been, as great as we thought. He's still a rookie. I think he's, going through his rookie slumps. I think he'll have a breakout game at some point. I do think Geno Smith has made plays, but I don't love the Raiders receiving core. They have probably the worst receiving core in the National Football League. They don't have a true number one receiver. They're relying on some young guys like Dante Dorton, like Trey Tucker. I think those guys are better serviceable as the number 3, number 4, with Jacoby Myers as the number 2. You do have Brock Bowers, the best tight end in football, but you can only do so much with that. And I don't overly love their offensive line either. Outside of Max Crosby, I don't love their defense. I think that's a bad recipe going up against the Washington Commanders. So I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders to win this game and cover. We have a division matchup here. We got the Atlanta Falcons going on the road to the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers did show me something last week against the Arizona Cardinals. They looked like they were getting blown out. They were down, I think, 3 or 4 possessions, and their offense really started to click. Tectora McMillan looks like he's going to be the favorite to potentially win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I said coming out of the draft, he was the closest thing I've seen to Mike Evans. The guy's 6'4", 6'5". He could run. He can catch anything that's thrown to him. I think Bryce Young has had his moments. But I just think the Falcons, with the way how much better they looked, and when you look at it, they were a couple field goals away from maybe being 2-0 and being the Buccaneers in week 1. And then they went out and completely, made J.J. McCarthy look like a first-year starting quarterback and made J.J. McCarthy not look that great. Their defense finally got a pass rush. They've been struggling to get a pass rush for years. Their pass rush looked dominant. So now you got a Falcons team who has a pass rush. Kyle Pitts has been getting more involved with the game. Darnell Mooney is a really solid number 2 receiver. Drake London, who's dealing with some injuries, that's my one question mark with them. We have to see if Drake London's fully healthy. Bijan Robinson looks like this may be the year where he's going to take the next step to become the best running back in football, like we all knew that was bound to happen. I know they're on the road in a divisional game, but I just don't think the Carolina Panthers have the talent on defense to be able to handle the Falcons. And I think the Falcons, with the improvements that they've had on defense with that pass rush, I think that they're going to give Bryce Young fits. Bryce Young's the guy who tends to hold on to the ball a little too long. So I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win that game and cover. Again, sticking with the theme, we have another divisional matchup right here. We have the Houston Texans going on the road to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Houston Texans are desperately needing for a win. They're 0-2. They did lose to 2 good teams with the Los Angeles Rams in week 1 and then losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both those games were close. They're both one-possession game that could have went either way. Then we look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, they blew out the Carolina Panthers, but we know the Carolina Panthers aren't an overly good team. And then you allowed a Joe Burrow-less team, a team that lost Joe Burrow and had to play Drake Browning, and you still lost that game. They allowed the Bengals to come back, and it was largely because of the Bengals defense. Trevor Lawrence didn't look that great in that game. Their wide receivers really weren't able to get going. And I just think the Houston Texans are the better team. And because Jacksonville is 1-1, and the Houston Texans are 0-2, knowing they can't start off 0-3 and, be down, 0-1 in the division, the Houston Texans need this game really bad. So I'm going to go with the Houston Texans to win this game in an upset. Again, because we have a lot of division games this week. We have a huge divisional matchup with the Denver Broncos going on the road to the Los Angeles Chargers. As I said before, the Denver Broncos have not looked as good as we thought. In game 1, Bo Nix and the offense didn't look that great. In game 2, their defense didn't look that good. So we got to see if they're going to be able to put it all together. And on the flip side, we look at a Chargers team too. It looks like Jim Harbaugh has got the confidence built into Justin Herbert. The defense has been playing really well. I know they won't have Khalil Mack, but they do got some other guys who are serviceable. They have a really, really talented secondary. Derwin James is an absolute chess piece who could play corner, linebacker, safety, nickel corner, basically whatever you need him to do that week. And then when you look at offense, Justin Herbert has the best receiving core he's ever had. Keenan Allen is making plays. Quentin Johnson, all he does now is catch touchdowns. Ladd McConkey, still one of the best route runners in football. I think Omari Hampton is due for a breakout game. It's a division game. It will be close. I think the Broncos, I think that this will be the game where everything kind of comes together for them. I think that their defense plays good. I think Bo Nix will play good. But I just think that Justin Herbert right now, with the confidence he playing with, I like him better than I like Bo Nix. And right now I like the Chargers defense better than I do the Broncos. We'll get 2 great coaches this one with Payton going up against Jim Harbaugh. I think Jim Harbaugh will have a good game plan. Also, with the Chargers being the home team, I think the Chargers continue their hot streak, move to 3-0. And it's unfortunate for the Broncos because now they're going to be 1-2 and now be down in a division game as well. But I'm going to go with the Chargers, and the way Justin Herbert's playing, Justin Herbert may be changing the narrative. The way he's playing, if he can continue this into the playoffs, we may not be saying next year, the big 4 quarterbacks. We may be saying the big 5 quarterbacks, with Herbert being at number 5. Another game we got here, we got the New Orleans Saints going on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are a 7.5-point favorite. That's a pretty high point spread. We know Seattle, Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's one of the top 10 receivers in football. Sam Darnold has had his moments. He had his highs. He's had his lows this season. So we got to see what Sam Darnold we're going to get. Seattle, their defense looked, has actually made plays this year with the defensive line and with the secondary led by Devon Witherspoon. We know Seattle's got a lot of defensive talent. But with the way the Saints played, this is a team that gets no respect. And yeah, they're not an overly talented team, but this is a team that has so far the first 2 weeks have exceeded expectations and plays these games much closer than what we previously predicted. Spencer Rattler right now has been the ninth highest graded quarterback according to Pro Football Focus. We know Alvin Kamara is one of the best running backs. We know Chris Olave is a true number one receiver. Juwan Johnson, their tight end, has been one of the best tight ends in football. And we know the Saints are always going to play really, really great defensively. And I think Grandison leads the NFL in sacks. So you know that they're going to have a great defense. If Spencer Rattler continues to play like this, maybe they don't need to draft a quarterback next year. Maybe Tyler Shunk doesn't even get a chance to start the way Spencer Rattler's playing. He's doing the best he can to keep him off the football field. I do think the Saints have much more talent. I do think the Seattle Seahawks still do have much more talent with Kenneth Walker, with Zach Charbonnet, with Cooper Kupp, with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I still think Sam Darnold's the better quarterback. I think defensively, both teams got talent. I think that cancels each other out. So I'm going to trust Seattle's offense. But 7.5 points, man, even with them being at the home team, that's way too much against the Saints team who's always been playing you tough. So I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks no cover. In a game that desperately needs a team to rebound, the Chicago Bears, we have the Dallas Cowboys going on the road to Chicago Bears. The Bears are a small 1.5 point favorite as we record this. The Dallas Cowboys, who, again, they're a team that after losing Micah Parsons has played pretty well. They gave the Philadelphia Eagles a really good run for their money. If it wasn't for a fumble by Miles Sanders and a couple of drops by CeeDee Lamb, maybe they upset the Eagles. They obviously played a really competitive game with the Giants. I know the Giants aren't a great team, but it's a division matchup. And then when you look at the Bears, they had that game won and absolutely choked them in the fourth quarter against the Minnesota Vikings. They had J.J. McCarthy looking like a top 10 quarterback in the fourth quarter of that game, and then absolutely got destroyed, and they looked like they belonged with the Detroit Lions. We thought that this would be the year with Ben Johnson now at the helm, with Caleb Williams, with the receivers we have. We know he's got the receivers. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, two good tight ends with Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet. They got some defensive talent. I know they do have some injuries at the secondary. I think that's what has really, really hurt this team. But them being the home team, with them coming off of back-to-back losses, they know they can't start off 0-3. And the Cowboys having a very emotional overtime win, I think this sets up for the Bengals to finally have that breakout game that Ben Johnson's been desperately clamoring for. So I think Caleb Williams finally has a rebound game. I expect DeAndre Swift to have a good game. The Cowboys, yeah, they've been impressive, but they still got no pass rush. They barely had a pass rush when they had Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons was getting double and triple team. Now you don't have him. You have no guy that you could really rely on. They're still dealing with injuries as well. So you got two teams that are dealing with injuries in the secondary. Bears being the home team, I'm going to go with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson to have finally a breakout game, and the Chicago Bears to win and cover. And in the last 4 o'clock game, we have the Arizona Cardinals in a divisional matchup. Basically, whoever wins this game is going to probably move to first place. The Arizona Cardinals are going on the road to the 49ers. The 49ers are a 1.5 point favorite. This is a very tough game to predict. This is probably the first or second hardest game to predict. I can see this game going a plethora of ways. I think the Cardinals have showed the improvements with Josh Sweat and others in their defense that they brought in, a defense that has struggled. We see Marvin Harrison now emerging as a potential true number one receiver. They got other guys they can rely on as well. Trey McBride, an elite tight end. They got two good running backs with Trey Benson and James Conner. We know Kyler Murray, if he's healthy at the first half of the season, we know he's always going to play good football. But, man, the 49ers, Mac Jones has looked really well. We know Mac Jones has been a guy who could run a Kyle Shanahan-style system really, really well. Now, he's no Brock Purdy, but he's definitely a guy I think the 49ers can win with. McCaffrey started to make some plays in the last game. I know this is a team that's dealing with injuries. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. So, this is a game, like I said, because of the injuries, this game could go either way. I really want to pick the Cardinals, but going on the road in a divisional matchup, wow, man, I'm even second guessing myself right here. This game's really tough to predict because you got a Cardinals team who potentially lost one of their top players last week in Garrett Williams, their corner. I still like the 49ers' talent more with Fred Warner, the best inside linebacker in football. I think Mac Jones with Christian McCaffrey, with Juwan Jennings, can make enough plays. But, man, it's like you obviously are going to trust Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. over Mac Jones and Juwan Jennings. But with the 49ers being the home team and with both teams dealing with injuries, I think the 49ers and the Cardinals both got decent defenses that can make plays. I'm just going to side with the 49ers since they're the home team, but this game's a coin flip. I wouldn't be too confident in it, but I'm going to go with the 49ers with the home field advantage to win and cover. Now we go into the two primetime games. We got the Kansas City Chiefs, who are a 6.5-point favorite on the road to the New York Giants. We saw how good the offense of the New York Giants looked, but you can make the same argument. The strength of their team was supposed to be their defense, and their defense didn't look that great. I think this might flip. I think the Giants might struggle on offense. I think that game may have been an anomaly, going up against a really poor defense in the Dallas Cowboys. We know the Kansas City Chiefs has a really talented defense with Trent McDuffie and Chris Jones. I think they're going to be highly motivated. There's no way the Kansas City Chiefs are going to start off 0-3. Travis Kelce is going to be very pissed off and want to rebound from his drop and his poor performances. They may get Xavier Worthy back. If not, I think Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid is going to go out there and absolutely destroy the New York Giants. I can see this being the biggest blowout of the week. This is my lock of the week. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to easily win and cover. I think the Giants will struggle on offense. I think they'll have some plays on defense with Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau and Burns and some of those secondary players. But I think Pat Mahomes is going to make enough plays, and I think the Chiefs' defense is going to absolutely smother and shut down the New York Giants. So my lock of the week this week is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs to win and cover on the road and Sunday Night Football in primetime against the New York Giants. And in the last game, the game of the week, and it's a primetime game, Monday Night Football, we have the Detroit Lions going on the road to the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, as we record this, are a 4.5-point favorite. This is a game that's obviously really, really tough to pick. But my deciding factor is going to be the fact that we know Jared Goff can struggle on the road. We know we still can't trust the Lions defense yet. I know Aiden Hutchinson has looked much better week 2 than they did week 1, but we can't trust their defense. We know they got good safeties, but we don't know what the Lions are really at corner yet, so we can't trust the Lions corners. We can't trust their D-line yet. We can't trust their pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson. And Aiden Hutchinson is not even 100% Aiden Hutchinson yet. And going on the road, we know Baltimore plays great at home. They're going to be able to run the ball and control the clock with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. I just think that this is I got to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I don't trust the Lions defense. I don't trust the Lions on the road. And I love the Baltimore Ravens as a home team. We know Lamar Jackson is one of their 2 or 3 best players in football. Derrick Henry's one of the best running backs. You got Zay Flowers. You got Walker now emerging at wide receiver. Hopkins now has made plays back-to-back weeks. Raquan Smith, I think he was AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He's one of the best inside linebackers in football. We know how great the Lions is on defense. So that's going to be the difference. Is I trust the Ravens defense more so than I trust the Lions defense. The Ravens defense, yeah, they've had their moments where they haven't looked, all buttoned up. But we know that they got the talent with Marlon Humphreys, Wiggins, Raquan Smith, the D-line that they have, the pass rush that they have. I just trust the Ravens at home against a Lions team that I don't love their defense, and I don't like Jared Goff on the road. Usually when Jared Goff goes on the road, he has turnovers. And I can see this game, him having one of those games where he has 1 to 2 turnovers. I think it'll be very close, but I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. It's not a high point spread. I think if it was 5.5 or more, I would go Ravens no cover. But if it stays at the 4.5 or under, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens to win and cover this game. So that's going to do it for this week. It was a great show. We'll be obviously back next week. Like I said before, we do a college football show and an NFL show each and every week. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. We'll be back next week to break down all the big games and all the big news that happens in the NFL from week 3. And we're going to be breaking down all the games from week 4. Each week, we're going to be breaking down each and every game and giving our predictions throughout the season. So you're definitely not going to want to miss it. Again, make sure you're following us across all social medias. We're on Twitter at Balester555, Instagram and TikTok at Anthony Balester. make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like we said, the more subscribers we have, the more content and the better the content can be. Also, make sure to share and like this video to anybody you know that also likes football. The more eyeballs we get on this, the more subscribers we get, and the more you like it, the better it helps with the algorithm. So that's going to do it for this episode. It was a great show. Definitely make sure to enjoy the NFL this weekend. We know the NFL delivers. And enjoy the football this weekend. We'll catch you guys next week.